I really see the breakdown is when AI completely takes over their entire business. And then it's just, every interaction has some sort of, AI function to it. I think it's just over the top. We've had things like IVR phone systems where you call a big company and then you're going to hear the automated messaging and you click the buttons to move through the menu. Like that's normal. That's a part of accepted society right now. But to have an entire phone call and you're talking with an AI, like that, I think to me is just people aren't there yet.
If you're enjoying the show, hit subscribe so that you never miss an episode. You'll get the latest on marketing, AI, and how to grow your business. It only takes 2 seconds and really helps the show grow. So please hit subscribe and then continue listening. Joel, welcome to the podcast. Great to have you on today. Now, you obviously run your own marketing agency, but initially you worked as an AV or audiovisual technician and stage manager and producer. What was it like working in the music industry and working in live events?
Yeah, it's really interesting. When you work at kind of the scale that we were at, I mean, we did everything from super small, really important board meetings through high level executives for Fortune 500 companies. So, I mean, you're in a room of maybe 10 people and, it's very sensitive information, all the way up to, packing out Little Caesars Arena in Detroit and all the theaters in between. Both, I would say, have their same levels of stress. It's just different stakes that are at play. Um, but yeah, it was a lot of fun. I think I've always just kind of really enjoyed high stress environments for whatever reason. I don't know if that's masochistic or what what is it, but I've always enjoyed doing that. And so live events and being an AV technician, like, you and your team, like everything hinges on hitting the right button at the right time, and if you don't, then, everybody knows it. And there's kind of a saying in the AV world where you're not noticed until something goes wrong. And that's kind of how we play it is
Accurate.
yeah, unless you're perfect, and then if you are, then no one knows that you did anything, which is kind of where you want to be.
Yeah, it's like you're very much behind the scenes. I mean, I've worked with a lot of audiovisual technicians because I used to do live music myself as a performer. And so, yeah, like the sound guys would always be, hiding away in the background, like tweaking and tinkering. And you're right, like you just like they're just there to make sure things run smoothly. And if things mess up, it's like, like what's going on?
Yep.
So definitely like high pressure. Yeah. Yeah. And so what was like the most like the coolest or most chaotic or whatever direction you want to take it sort of events that you worked? Like was there a standout kind of event or sort of thing?
I would say one of the ones I enjoyed the most is the Shinola Hotel in downtown Detroit. Has a event space up in the upper floor called the Birdie Room, and it's a beautiful event space. It's not super big, but I got to run sound and do tech for Jack White from the White Stripes, which was amazing, and also got to run sound for. Um, Alice Cooper was there that night as well.
That's cool.
So it was a really, really cool experience. It's like two people that, I play music myself. Like I've been playing music since I was like 13, all different types of instruments. And those were two figures that I listened to a lot of their music growing up. And so to kind of be in that room with them, running sound for them, working with them directly. Um, and one thing that was really stressful about that night, was Jack White. Apparently he's got this thing, which we didn't know until that night, but he likes um, playing with instruments that have issues. Like that's kind of his thing. And I guess it's like a musician's like muse kind of thing where it's like it keeps him on his toes and keeps him creative. But
Wow.
the guitar he brought, the input jack just was stopped working. And so, he's supposed to be playing and like we're running into all these tech issues and they didn't bring that guitar ahead of time for us to sound check. So he literally walks on stage with it and you kind of have to adapt in the moment. And so
Wow.
when it started cutting out and not working immediately from putting it in, like we all knew it was the input jack, like it wasn't the tech's fault or anything like that. And he knew that, but still in that moment, you have all these people that, are high income earners are in this room with all these celebrities and everything, and you're waiting for him to play, and then it's just not happening. And that was a really stressful moment. But on the other side of it, it was, a night I'll never forget. It was a lot of
Mm.
fun.
Yeah, I imagine you'd meet these really interesting people and be like pushed with these interesting, complex challenges that like the average person probably, yeah, would never kind of comprehend. Like it's such an industry specific problem, like an audio jack not working, or,
Yeah.
people like that's so interesting that he would like bring equipment that was like kind of not working to keep himself on his toes. Cause I imagine for a lot of performers, it would become much like a 9 to 5 job. Like you're playing the same shows, the same songs night after night on tours. Some of these tours last a couple of years sometimes. So I can understand that. But then, yeah, it's such an interesting environment to be in.
Yeah, I think, and I'm kind of the very much the opposite. Like, when I played in bands growing up and did small tours around the southeast of the US. And I remember meticulously going through, constantly changing strings, making sure pots are soldered properly and, the pickups are functioning properly and all that. And I even roadied for a couple bands on tour as well. And so that's always been my thing, is always like a high level of preparation. And so to think that like as a high level musician you do the exact opposite, to where it's like I need something that's going to fail me so that way I can like be creative in that moment. It's just and I think that's the artsy part that I never really got as a musician.
Mm. No, it's super interesting. I'm very much like you, like because I do a lot of live gigs, and corporate events, and I'd have a backup microphone, I'd have backup cables, I'd have just like, what if this doesn't work or this doesn't work or extra charges? Like I just could not handle the stress. Thankfully, I'm not doing that anymore. But I'm curious. So obviously, like it sounds like a really interesting, obviously high pressure, high stakes environment. What kind of made you shift then into the marketing an AI kind of space? What was that like?
So marketing has always been something that's kind of been on the back burner. I mean, I got my first gig as a marketer, if you will, a social media manager, probably about 15 or more years ago now, probably almost 20 years ago now, working for a nonprofit. And then, after I kind of did my own thing with music, I got into playing in churches and things like that. And so, helping churches through nonprofits with some of their marketing efforts, that was kind of always something that was on the back burner. Um, but my wife actually taught me how to use a camera when, we first started dating, we got engaged. And so, the the photo and video aspect of like the content creation side of marketing was interesting. We started with just our own, a couple photo businesses here and there over the years. And then, we launched a wedding photography and videography business, which did really, really well. And we had a lot of people, at these weddings and connections with, the bride and groom's parents. They have all these business connections. They're like, hey, do you do corporate style videos? So we started getting into doing more of that. And then it was right around COVID where I had a business partner come in with my production company and started running the marketing for some of our clients. And I didn't know a ton about paid advertising or SEO and stuff at the time. I knew a little bit, but not enough to really know what I was doing.
Mhm.
And then it was after that, like we really started taking off as a marketing agency and a content creation agency, to where we started working with other agencies around the country. And we actually got connected with the company I'm with now, ASP, out of Austin, Texas. And we started helping them with some paid advertising campaigns. And they were mainly doing content creation at the time. But we started working together so much that it was like, why in the world are we not just merging this now? And so we got acquired by ASP, and, here I am now, running the agency.
That's cool. That's cool. And yeah, I imagine like having a background in a creative industry, obviously, it sounds like it really helped with that transition because marketing is such a creative thing, especially, I mean, you've got obviously written content, you've got video content, photo content, but everything in marketing is a form of communication, is a form of creativity. And so I imagine, did you find that having that background in music really helped shape kind of your marketing career, or like did you find they complement each other, or what did that feel like?
I think there are some aspects of working as an AV technician that I was able to pull. Like I said, I've I was in the restaurant industry, and then I, moved into audiovisual stuff, and then, now into marketing. But those high pressure environments, I think, help me think differently about distribution, about results, about systems and processes. And I think that's what, our clients really like about our agency is, when we come in, like there's an absolute hustle to everything. I know a lot of agencies are out there be like, yeah, we're going to get started. We're excited. And they're just excited for you to sign contract and submit the first payment. And then it's hard getting a hold of them, or the results don't come as fast as they said they would. And I think through those other jobs and those other industries, I learned the importance of not only executing quickly, but executing at a high level. And so our approach to things is like being very, very transparent with our clients. Like there are plenty of times when we've had months that weren't green, they were red, and so we explain that to the clients. It's not, we're going to pad the numbers, not every month is green. We tell them that up front, and when it comes around, they already have that expectation that that happens in marketing sometimes. To say it doesn't is a lie, and I know a lot of agencies out there will always show you a green report, but that's just not the case. So I think, kind of to answer your long-winded way of your original question, it's really just that, kind of building the problem-solving mentality of, something went wrong, what's wrong, and we have to fix it and fix it fast. Um, and that's, I think, the probably the biggest thing bringing into marketing and, how we execute with our clients.
I like that. I like that setting those expectations early and saying to the clients, like, there are going to be months where we're going to be in the red, or it's not going to be a big win, because like that's life. I mean, even business, it's up and down. It's not something that's necessarily going to be consistently up, up, up. And so I think that's really cool that you like preempt that in the beginning with a client, and just like that honesty and transparency is something I was just talking with somebody about in another episode, where it was like, that's how you build trust. It's not just promising everything's going to go right all the time. It's like, no, like we are going to get you some good wins, like potentially here, but there are going to be some maybe downsides or, downswings here. And that actually builds trust because there's a sense of honesty, there's transparency. And I think that clients really like that, which I think is cool.
Yeah, and I completely agree with that, which is why, like, a lot of our clients, they've been with us for years. When, marketing is typically, you have a churn every 6 to 12 months. We've got clients that have been with us for years, and you ask them now, and be like, I had one of our clients the other day. She's like, the only reason I would not be marketing with you guys is if our business goes under. And that's the kind of level of trust that we shoot with our clients. And if I don't know the answer to something, I'm going to tell them up front, like, hey, I don't actually know the answer to that. I don't know maybe what the right strategy is here. But they know and trust us enough that we're going to go figure it out, and we're going to find the answer for it. Because, in those ups and downs, like you said, when there is that, that red report, where everything, it just seems to not be working, where, if something's not making progress like it should be or whatever, if you're honest and transparent about, like, hey, we expected this result and we didn't get it, um, we're gonna go figure out why. Or, hey, you know what, we screwed up here. We didn't, tag this, we didn't do this, or whatever. If we make a mistake, we're going to tell them up front. We're going to send them an email. We're going to set up a call with them, say, hey, we screwed up. We're going to fix this. And that is what builds the trust that keeps that client retention high.
Yeah, I think it's especially in the world of like influencers and hype and, everything's perfect, to really own that and own our mistakes and own things that don't always go right. Like I totally agree that it builds trust. It's like something I mentioned before on another episode was, in marketing, it's very much like a relationship. Like if you say you're going to do something and don't do it, like you're going to piss your friend off. And it's the same with clients. It's the same with business. Like if you do what you say you're going to do and you own it when make a mistake, or if you're just real, like I just think that goes such a long way in business, and something that a lot of people maybe don't do because they're scared of like losing a client or how they're going to react or whatever, which I totally get. But I think it's that honesty piece, especially in this day and age, that just goes so much further with clients. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, it's, the way that I look at it, because when I was working in audiovisual, like I had a team, like I ran a team. There was a group of guys that were all leads on all these different events that were going out regularly. And I mean, I've come from, a corporate background as well. Like I've worked in, corporate businesses and big Fortune 500 companies. And with that, like when someone screws up on your team, it's okay. We're gonna figure this out. We're gonna work through it. As long as obviously it's not super bad that we need to let them go. But like that's the last resort, right? Is to let them go. And that's how I try to position ourselves as an agency with our clients, is looking at truly like, hey, like we're an extension of you. Like
Mhm.
every HVAC company that we work with, like I want us to feel like the in-house marketing company for that HVAC client. I don't want to have this like me versus you when it comes to reporting, like it should be an extension of your business. And it's a partnership. And if it doesn't feel like that, if we haven't created that right environment, I want them to go find someone who can create that environment for them. We truly want what's best for that client, whether it's with us or not. Which is why when we, set up our campaigns, when we build, we sign up for, whatever is a SaaS product or platform or something that the client needs, everything's done in their name. Everything's done with their email address, with their access, with their own passwords, that they then give us access to. We don't own anything. Um, we have one exception for we have like a subscription based service for websites, which we're actually moving away from. But that's the only sense in like you pay a really low monthly fee. We run everything for you. We host it. We pay all these fees. And then if you want to leave, you just buy the license from us and the website's yours. But when it comes to like Google ad accounts, like Google Analytics and tracking and metrics and data, like everything is in the client's name, not ours. So if for whatever reason they're not happy with our service, we're not going to hold information hostage for you to then kind of get screwed over and not have that data moving forward. We truly want your business to move forward. So making sure they own that, make sure there's full transparency that at any point in time, regardless of what our reporting looks like, they can go in and verify it for themselves in their own platforms. So building that kind of relationship allows us to kind of feel more of that extension of their business as if we're working like inside, like as a marketing team inside of the business.
Yeah, no, I think that's really cool because a lot of, well, not a lot, but I know of some marketing firms who will hold the assets ownership and they don't give it to the client. So I think that that's, yeah, just a really cool way to run a business and something that I think is worth businesses considering. Like, yeah, do you have access to your actual analytics? Are you getting the right information from your marketing agency? Are they fluffing the numbers at all? Like, do you understand the metrics? Do you understand the benchmarks where you started and where you are now? Like, is there measurable improvement? Because I think this is where a lot of businesses get frustrated with marketing agencies is they don't know the improvements and where they are they happening? There's a lot of confusion, and I think yeah, it's cool to be able to speak the language of the business of simplifying it and speaking in their jargon as well, depending on their industry.
Yeah.
And so maybe to shift, I guess, into a bit of AI, what are you seeing in the space in terms of obviously AI is having a huge impact on marketing? Um, what are you seeing as being those effects, both positive or negative?
Yeah. So our agency works primarily with local businesses, home service professionals, lawyers, attorneys, things like that. Um, I know what's really big with trades right now, what they're really interested in is AI agents for handling phone calls and scheduling and stuff like that. And I think there's probably an element of that that's beneficial for a business. But where I really see the breakdown is when AI completely takes over their entire business. And then it's just, every interaction has some sort of, AI function to it. I think it's just over the top. We've had things like IVR phone systems where you call a big company and then you're going to hear the automated messaging and you click the buttons to move through the menu. Like that's normal. That's a part of accepted society right now. But to have an entire phone call and you're talking with an AI, like that, I think to me is just people aren't there yet, and, maybe it's just the shift has to happen or is going to happen. And it's going to take a few years to do that. And then it'll become normal and everybody expects it. But I think where a lot of our clients are not they're not the HVAC company working with the private equity firm. They're the mom and pop owned, family owned for 25 years kind of trades business. And so they're hell bent on relationships with their customers and with the people that they work with, their team and everything. So that's why I really feel like they have an opportunity to stick out as everyone's shifting to AI. If they keep things personalized, more people are going to want to work with people that are actually answering the phones, actually setting appointments versus, some AI. On the other hand, there are a lot of really beneficial AI tools out there that can help with efficiency with your business. I mean, at the end of the day, you own a business because you want to make money, you want the freedom to go and do these things, and AI gives you the ability, in some areas to be able to do that efficiently, to have, maybe it's serving your customer better, without having to incur a ton of extra costs. Or if it's just, hey, I don't need to hire more guys because I can have these tasks done efficiently. So now, you as a business owner, your overhead stays lower. You can pay the guys you have currently more, or whatever it is, whatever you choose to do with that efficiency, both in time and money. But I mean, there's obviously a ton of stuff in marketing happening with AI and how it's impacting how marketers are creating content, distributing content, and the way that LLM searches are kind of taking over just general like Google and Bing and like regular search engines. There's a lot happening. So I don't know how deep you want to go into all of that.
Yeah, no, I think you covered a lot of good points. I think there is going to be obviously a transition period, which we all love
Yeah.
transitions and change. With, I think you mentioned, obviously with working with home service businesses and trades and people calling up and maybe it's a case of, having an automation of like, oh, we have an AI system if you want to talk to someone straight away, or, giving people an option of you can talk to AI or you can talk to a human. I don't know what that transition looks like, but it's an interesting space to be in because I know there are a lot of trade businesses transitioning to that model, especially if they're like a one person show and they can't answer the phone while they're like, if they're a
Yep.
plumber and they're fixing someone's sink kind of thing. So I see like it probably is very contextual in a lot of ways of how big is the team and what's the industry they're in terms of these tools. It's something that I was talking with someone about is, it's all well and good to like have these AI tools, but what's the like use case for it? Does it fit the industry? Does it fit the problem you're trying to solve? Or is it just kind of like fancy wrapping paper that's just a distraction? And so I think that can apply to like every industry, including marketing, including content. Is this actually serving the purpose that we need it to, or is it just making us feel excited and like we're doing something, but we're not really moving the needle, if that makes sense?
Yep. Yeah, 100%. And I think too that um, I think where it's maybe a bad thing is for those who aren't spending the time to learn how to properly create content with AI, or optimize things with AI. Um, I mean, LLMs are getting better and better with understanding, kind of the intentionality behind prompts. But there's still like, I mean, a year ago when, ChatGPT was like really, really getting, big and a lot of people were starting to use it and it was gathering data, like, I thought, initially, like I was getting pretty good at prompting, within the first couple months of using it. And I was like, oh, this is great. And then to look at like what our team is doing now with prompting and the guidelines that we put in place, it's light years beyond, even though the LLMs have kind of become more advanced in their understanding of intentionality behind prompting. So I think that spending some time to actually learn how to interact with the AI, how to train it, and things like that goes a long way. And if you don't do it, then even with the advances with the prompting, the content coming out is just, it's not great content. It'll get flagged or it just won't provide any value. So it's not really going to rank. Then you're kind of wasting your time creating content that's not doing anything. And you think that it's doing something. So you wait 8 months waiting for your SEO to start looking better. And then, it's not. And you're 8 months, behind on creating something instead of just kind of doing some more research up front.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. And even in the age of AI, like you mentioned, sort of educating and training, also educating and training like ourselves on what is good content, because we can put a prompt in and we can get content, but if we don't know what's good content versus bad content, we're going to make a bad decision. So it's almost like we need to learn, maybe some basic copywriting, some, value propositions, some, phrasing, like what sounds good, like so that we know as an end user or as a marketer or a business owner, what is good content and what does my like how do I appeal to my customer? And then that will then also improve the prompting process, which will improve the output process. And then we can go through and go, okay, this is great content or this is bad content. Because I think the issue a lot of businesses are running into, probably like unconsciously and not super aware of it, is like, yeah, you're getting all this content from ChatGPT, but that doesn't mean it's good content. And then you're putting it on your website or social media. And this is where people are like, oh, that's just AI. I know those phrases or I know those words. And so it's almost like yes, training in AI, but also training in like what does good content look like and sound like, and familiarizing ourselves with that as well. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think this is where companies that have been marketing a long time have the biggest advantage with AI now, is because I mean, it's just like anything in data, good data in, good data out. So if you have all of this previous, marketing materials and language and, the demographics you're targeting, your avatars, like all this information about your business, you can use that as the filter and guidelines for the LLMs you're working through. So like we have a copywriter that we use, and she's fantastic. But at the same time, like she can't keep up with all of our clients. But being able to take the basic outlines and structures and how she phrases things and use that to enhance older content to bring it up to speed, keeps her from having to go and revise all these other things, but at the same time, like gives a lot of value for the client. So there's a lot of really great ways. Like if you have a good marketing strategy, like an outline of how the business talks, how like the avatars it goes after, all these things, you can use that as the framework to building content, and it's going to be so much better than the content you're going to generate just by throwing a simple prompt into ChatGPT.
No, I think I totally agree, and it's something that I've been playing around with a lot is custom GPTs, because again, like using AI to speed up processes, I think is one of my favorite things to use it for. And so, I created, say, a custom GPT. It's an AI copywriter, and basically it goes through like different questions. So, okay, what are you trying to like? What sort of content do you want? Like, who's your target market? What's your product and services? What's your tonality? Like it's like basically a guided GPT, if you like, kind of.
Right.
And so and that's something I offer for free for people on my website for anyone who's interested. But basically, it's just a guided prompting process to help get clear on like, this is what I'm looking for, and this is what I want, and this is what I want it to sound like. And because I think where people can get lost is they're like, oh, write me a blog post and make it this long, or, and then it's too vague, it's too generic. And so I like that, you're taking the structure and the templates and the phrasing of your copywriter and then kind of like repopulating it and bringing in those efficiencies. And so are there any particular like AI tools that you find you use more of, or any automations in your practice, in your firm?
I would say the AI models that I personally like the best is Claude. When it comes to deep research and content creation, I think that it is just, I think it, I should say the way that it words content, I think sounds way more natural than ChatGPT.
Hmm.
Now again, you can make ChatGPT put out some amazing content. It's just all about the guide rails that you put in, but like the partners and the other leads and stuff in our agency, they use a lot more ChatGPT than they do Claude. I'm probably one of the outliers with Claude, but I mean, even some of the recent content that we've been able to create for clients, looking at and using like AI checkers and things like that. Before, I mean, even 6 months ago, like if you got something that was below 50% flagged as AI, like that was good. A lot of the stuff we've been putting out lately have between 0 and 8% flagged as AI. And that for us is a huge win because if that's the case, again, I think that I should caveat with I think there's a lot of AI checkers out there that are full of it and that aren't really, pulling it. Because I've had 100% human written content. They're like, oh, this sounds like AI. And it's
Yeah.
no, we had a copywriter write this. So we check it across a bunch of different ones just to kind of get an aggregate. Um, but to be able to have that drastic of a drop with some of the frameworks and stuff that we built internally to us signaled that we were heading in the right direction, that we can create good content that's and be helpful for our clients, and we can create it in large quantities so that way they can be more aggressive. Because like a lot of the clients we work with again are locally owned businesses, and they're going up against other businesses or franchises that have private equity investing millions of dollars into their business and millions of dollars into marketing every year. Like it's extremely competitive, especially in trades like HVAC and plumbing and electrical. So when we are working with these smaller clients, we have to be able to provide a ton of value at an affordable price for them. We have to, take a $5,000 a month budget and compete with someone that's spending 30 or $40,000 a month. And AI allows us to be a lot more competitive and punch above our weight in that sense.
Hmm. I think that's really cool. And I think, again, yeah, like AI can really increase the scale of the output. And then if you get your inputs right, like you mentioned, your outputs will kind of just take care of themselves. And so, like, do you find that working with local businesses, you're focusing more on local SEO? Do you find also that your clients, like plumbers or whoever, like, do they need education around AI? Do they already have an understanding? Like, what's that kind of education process like?
Yeah. Yes to both. I mean, we kind of do all of that. So, when it comes to AI, my approach with all of our clients absolutely is educational value, as much as I can possibly impart to them to help them understand our strategy for marketing or just marketing in general. Because again, a lot of the times these trades that we work with specifically, they were just really, really good at a trade skill. And then they had to hire more people, and then all of a sudden they became a leader. Then they became someone has got a whole team now, and now you've got different departments, and so they're learning all of this business leadership, and then how to do their finances, how to do the legal stuff, and all of that, and adding a marketing element to it is just more than what they can handle while they're owner operated. So that's why like I as best I can provide that marketing value without dumping everything onto their plate where they have to learn anything themselves, but they can at least stay informed and up to date. Um, yeah, and I mean that's all of marketing plus as AI kind of moves in and talking with our clients now about like, hey, we really do need to be focused on generative engine optimization. Like there's a massive amount of people going to LLMs now and typing in conversational queries. So it's not plumber near me anymore in Google. It's there's a vast majority of people being like, hey, my pipe is making some weird noise, or like I can't get my drain unclogged. Help! How do I fix this? Whatever it is. And so if you're not the one popping up there, when they figure out they can't do it themselves, then you're not going to get the phone call because they never went to our to Google to search for you where your, PPC would have popped up and you could have got that call through an ad.
Mhm.
So until they add ads inside of, AI search, which I'm sure that's coming soon with OpenAI doing search, um, their own search platform coming up soon. But, um, yeah, you have to be able to be optimized for the AI, for the organic search through search engines as normal, and then obviously have a good PPC campaign depending on kind of what industry you're in.
And I think that's really important. I think, especially for local businesses, is yeah, hammering the local SEO and PPC, but then also this is something that I think is changing a lot. You mentioned about like plumber near me. Obviously, that's 3-word keyword. That's a super short keyword. But then now it's like, oh, my pipe is making this sound. It's becoming these much longer search queries in terms of keywords. And so, are you finding with content creation for your clients that it's helpful to like take kind of what you imagine would be a detailed specific prompt in an LLM and then creating content for it, like do you have a noise? Do you hear a funny noise in your pipes? And then writing like a bit of a query on that. Like, how are you finding the process of content creation is for LLMs and how that differs to traditional SEO?
Yeah, that's a great question. So our shift actually recently, and we've seen a lot of really great success with it, is creating hub and spoke pages. So I'm not sure if you're familiar, but just having a pillar page, essentially a very long page of roughly 3,500 to 4,000 words as your quote unquote hub, and then you spoke, which is all these different resources that are interlinked from that hub page. So you might have 8 to 12 different blog articles and sub pages or whatever that's linked out to support that original one. So we're finishing up one right now for one of our HVAC clients, where it's like, answering the question, is it time to repair your unit or replace it? And then creating all of the content for that. And I think that is what has made the most significant impact for the AI searches. I mean, she told me the other day that they got a lead through from ChatGPT. So we know our content is working and it's driving traffic, it's driving impressions, and it's driving actual closed leads now, which is really cool to see. But yeah, hub and spoke pages I think are really beneficial. And then the way that we're structuring the blog content and the page content pretty specifically. So one thing LLMs really like to pull from is step-by-step instructions, guides, bulleted lists, and FAQs. So very tactical information that's very precise and digestible. Takes that aggregate from all these different websites and then we'll kind of push that out to the searcher. So a lot of our blogs now have at least 1 to 2 bulleted lists of something in there. And then there's usually between 5 and 10 FAQs at the bottom based on the topic. And then inside of those FAQs, obviously being able to implement local SEO optimization as well to make sure they're being found geographically, but also specifically for those keywords for AI and just traditional SEO.
Right. And like when you say doing like localized SEO in the FAQs, do you use like certain suburb terms or like what does that look like?
Yeah, so it could be just basic location keywords that are combined with the services, depending on the content. For example, for like locations pages, we try to include 1 to 3 actual points of interest and link those points of interest. So, for example, if you've got, I'm just outside of Detroit, so it would be, um, you know, linking the Fist of Detroit or Campus Martius Park downtown or something like that. And it's the actual like GMB link or the maps link that we're putting into that page. And I think it's kind of one of those things where it's like 1% here and there, but it adds up. And that for us has been helpful from a local SEO, and it helps with, I think there is some help with the AI search if the query itself is locationally based.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I think I like the detail orientation of it, where it's like, yeah, having this hub page and then all the different spokes and the links to all of the, it's kind of like a big web. It's something similar to someone else mentioned on the podcast of building like your FAQs out, and then kind of each FAQ then becomes a blog post as well. So it's kind of like you start with like 100 or however many FAQs with just like a little paragraph, and then it obviously extends into all these different blog posts, and using that as like your kind of web of content, I guess. And there's all obviously different ways of doing that. So I think it's like that detail, and then obviously the localized links as well is super cool. And so um, in terms of like I guess AI, like are you using it mostly for content generation? Are you using any like automations? What sort of does that look like?
Yeah, we use some automations. I would say a lot of the automations we utilize though are more of just traditional if this then that. It's not necessarily like AI plugins to complete its, the Zapiers or something like that that are completing automations and tasks. Mainly inside of like our project management board, we use Monday.com. So there's automations that you can build inside of there. Um, but I've explored having, like as leads come in, like lead forms come in for our agency, having them, automatically ported into a Google sheet, and they automatically get this, and so there's like email sequence and automations, but again, it's not anything like in depth. We have, myself and some of our team members are, researching like NAN and stuff like that to be able to kind of dive a little bit deeper, but it hasn't been a super high priority for us at the moment. We've got a good team that runs really efficiently. We use AI in the sense of like it's helping us become more efficient in our day-to-day tasks. So, you know, for now, like right now, like data entry is more of a manual task. So we're looking to find more ways to automate it. We use AI a lot for ideas, research, and content creation. So that saves a ton of time. I mean, just in the past, probably 6 to 8 months, I've probably cut almost 10 to 15 hours a week of working hours out by being able to utilize AI to automate a lot of these tasks. Um, I still have a lot of hands on with all of our, client strategies and progress and content creation. Um, so I still like to have my hands on things. I don't think I'll ever be comfortable with like fully just letting AI do a lot of stuff for us.
Mhm.
There has to be some sort of prompt quality control, and then obviously the quality control before it reaches the client to make sure that it's actually serving the purpose we want it to. But yeah, outside of that, we haven't really dove too deep into, inter-program AIs. Um, well, as maybe that's not entirely true. We did start doing a lot of research and trying to build out things called MCP. So it's like integrations from the LLMs into kind of like our operating system that's being built. Um, but that's still, I mean, that's a lot of programming. That's a little above my current knowledge base. So I'm still learning a lot around that.
Yeah, I know N8N is very like kind of developer code heavy, so I haven't played around with that. I have played around with make.com a little bit, but I mean I think it depends on the task and the amount of time that can be saved, and is it worthwhile doing an automation or not, depending on the task. And then I also liked what you said about having that human overview. And I think I talked to my friend about this, who's also a copywriter, and we talk about it's not so much creating these ideas and these content from scratch, but you become more of like a curator of sorts. Like you're reviewing content, you're checking it, you're optimizing it, it's becoming a much more strategic kind of overview role rather than being in the weeds, really rewording all of this sort of stuff, creating concepts. And so I think like for people who may be afraid of AI taking over, I don't think that's going to completely happen. I think that, we still need humans. We still need content to sound like it was written by a human. Nobody wants to just read like AI, general information. They want like that human touch and even like connection, So I think that, yeah, that's something that a lot of people, you don't need to be so afraid. Maybe a little bit of fear is healthy, but to keep us on our toes. But for people who say are afraid of AI in the future and all of that, what are some of the ways that maybe business owners or people can future-proof themselves and keep themselves in good standing?
Yeah, I think I've got two girls. They're both under the age of 9, and they're growing up in a very different world than what I did. My wife did. Like, we didn't have a cell phone at 9 years old, but like, there's a lot of kids out there that 9 and 10 they got a cell phone, and like they're kind of coming up with another level of technology that we didn't have. So I think there's always going to be some sort of healthy fear or at least awareness of like what could happen with AI when kind of overutilizing it. But I think at the end of the day, you need to understand is just a tool. Again, it's a data aggregator. It pulls information. Sure, there's plenty of conspiracies about how it's going to become sentient and take over, right? But until we reach, the Terminator's, judgment day or whatever, it's still very much just a tool to use. So help like utilize AI in a way that allows your team to be more efficient, not replacing people. Like going through, and I think at least this is my own personal conviction, is like I still want to hire people. Like I still want people to do a job because I trust a person more than I trust, an AI to really understand what I'm trying to get out. And I guess there's going to be arguments made for both sides, but for me, I would much rather work with a person where I can say like, hey, this is what I'm trying to do, understand the emotion, understand the intentionality behind it as a human being, and have them execute a task. At the very least, as a business owner, like I want people to take pride in what they do. I want them to make a living that affords them great things in life, whatever their goals are, I want them to be able to hit that. And if I, as a business owner, can hire someone to do that, and it helps them out, helps us out as a business. Like I want to be able to do that. I don't want to just outsource everything to a computer. So I think that there is going to be probably an element of in the future where people will pay more for a service if it has a human behind it. If there's a human interaction, there's a human account rep, there's a human person working on your whatever it is that you're paying them for.
Like a human.
So I think yeah, the
Yeah.
human aspect is going to become a premium, and I think that it's don't get rid of the human side of your business. Yeah, continue to develop it, and then just figure out how to make their job better, more efficient, easier to do, whatever you want to do with their job. Use the tools that are at your disposal in order to do that.
I think that's a really cool point, and also feels like a hopeful note to end on, where it's like automate and maybe outsource to AI the boring data driven like tasks that don't need a human or that a human doesn't really want to do. And then, keep the task human based that really need a human, the creative processes, the conversations, the relationships, the creative thinking and problem solving that is going to be much, much better being managed by a human. And so kind of seeing this segregation of maybe tasks as like human driven or AI driven, and then maybe as humans, like, can we double down on those skills? Can we double down on our creativity, our curiosity, and learn how these tools work so that we can use them to fuel our human driven tasks and things. So I think that's really cool. And we've just gone over, sorry. But for people who want to know more about you and find out what you do and connect online, where can they find you?
Yeah, you could. Our website is aspbranding.com. We have a YouTube channel. We upload a ton of helpful videos for business owners, and then we have some agency, information in there too for other marketers that are interested. We're currently developing a 100 videos for all of Google's top FAQs. If you don't know anything about how to run ads on Google, all the way through to some more advanced stuff, we're developing 100 different videos for you to go through. If you're interested in that, and it's all free to anyone that wants to go on YouTube and watch it. So if you want to email me, info@aspbranding.com.
Perfect. Well, yeah, thanks so much for coming on the podcast, Joel, and thank you everyone for listening.
Yep. Thanks, Ellie.